What do we do with love that somebody doesn't want? Either they can't accept it or they don't want it. It's just welling up inside of us. We have this longing for one person. Hello friends! Welcome to the Goddess Gaia channel. On this channel I bring spiritual, metaphysical messages. Be sure to like and subscribe this one as you watch it. So either they may have died, passed away, or they are unable to accept our love. And it's usually either way, if they can't or don't want to, it's usually because they can't. They aren't capable of receiving our love, if it's healthy love, which I'll talk about later. Either they're not connected to their own love core, their own capital S self, or they haven't solved their childhood trauma, their attachment trauma with their parents and how they even received their own love. So usually it's can't. And obviously if someone has totally blocked you out of their life, if they have passed away, then even then you understand, or you should understand, that they can't receive our love. This can be perhaps after a breakup or unrequited love, such as a crush. What do we do with that love that's filling up inside of us? I actually want you to realize that this is a big blessing that you have, and I know it doesn't really feel like that because it feels like we have so much love that we just want to give somebody, we just want to give it away. We want somebody to be the object of our affection. And it's because we think this person is the source of our love, and that's why we have it, so they are the ones that should have our love, right? But it ends up destroying us if we hold on to it, or if we obsess over this person, if we just narrow down and focus on one individual person or perspective of them. And I say perspective because it's usually because of a certain ideal that we've created about them, which is the reason why we have so much of this love. I talk about this in one of my other videos where I describe the fact that we're never actually satisfied being with somebody because everyone is imperfect, and usually this huge concept of love that we have is like based on this idea of perfection, this concept of perfection that we have inside of us. And this is actually a divine phenomena, and here's the video, I'll put it right here. What I want you to really see as I talk about this throughout the video is this love that this person is giving you. And yeah, isn't it cool to think that they're actually giving you this love even though they can't take your love or are unable to even like acknowledge it, that it's there? They're giving you this love because infinite source, which is, you can call it divine, you can call it God, it's really being concentrated in this one part, and we see them as like this divine version of something that will complete us. But actually, the source of this love is the divine themselves. And when it's so concentrated in one area, it's because our ego is really fixating on that one area. And I say area to divert the attention from that one person, because the ego loves getting just very narrow and zeroed in on something that it thinks will fulfill it. The ego is of the brain, and the brain is an organ made for the physical reality. It's made to help us survive. So our ego thinks, well, if I pair up with this one person, well, then I can have a stable life, I can survive for a lot more years, I can have healthy children, things like that. But real love is actually unconditional. If you want to discern whether you have unconditional love for this person, to really like test if this is divine love, so close your eyes and imagine that they are very happy. You see them in the distance, they're smiling, there's like sparks around them. You know this is true joy. Maybe they're doing their favorite activity, maybe they're just standing in nature, and they're so happy. And don't really involve yourself in this story, let's just step back away from them. They are just happy being somewhere doing something. And if you really know this person, you might know what makes them that happy. Okay, so now come out of it. What do you feel in this area of your body? Right here. Your heart center. What do you feel? You should feel this type of electricity that's like irreplaceable. It's like uncomparable to anything else. And honestly, this is us getting in touch with our true nature. No matter what made this person happy in that visualization that you had, whether it was playing the piano or getting the degree that they're working so hard for, or if it's even being with someone else, a different partner that they're very happy with. Usually we won't imagine that, but you know, that is a possibility, and that can tend to hurt us, tend to hurt our ego. But it won't matter, because if you truly unconditionally love them, if you have that divine love for them, it won't matter. Their joy will matter so much more than anything. And that's really what gives you that electricity in your heart center. On the flip side, if you don't feel this energy, you might actually have simply lust or infatuation for them, which is also okay. But then you have to deal with more of your sexual energies. And that's not really what I'm talking about in this video, but let's continue on. So if you have this electric, spark-filled, just energetic love for them, and you don't know what to do with it, it's this longing, and it's kind of poetic in a way. It makes us think that, you know, we would live and we would die for them. But if you say that about them, would you really say that about yourself? Because who would live and die for you? You have to be that person for yourself first. And even if someone does ever say that to you, don't fall for it, because this is a sign of unhealthy codependency where you cannot exist without the reciprocation of love from another person. It means that you don't love yourself enough to say that you aren't dependent on another person's emotion or energy towards you, but you are enough, and their love should not ever get you to that point. So this is usually solved by, you know, analyzing your own need for this love. This is usually done in like a psychological sense. So there's some books I'll recommend at the end of this video where I have some extra tips. But it stems from not being able to either understand a parent's love when we were younger, like they weren't speaking our love language, or our parents being inconsistent or very distant from us as a child, so we didn't really receive enough love at all, and we just constantly craved it. But if we go back to healthy love, unrequited love, or even a broken heart is actually a really good sign, because it shows that you're capable of interdependence. On one side, if we don't need them at all, we even push them away. We say, no, I don't need that. That's independence. That's higher than dependency, but the highest level of love is actually interdependence. And it shows interdependence because it means that we are opening up ourselves to be able to mutually rely on one another, and that's very healthy. That's how villages and communities and, you know, groups of people do well together and support each other throughout our human evolution. That has been the utmost beneficial format of relationship, where you benefit me, I benefit you. That is interdependence, and that's a very evolved form of love. Okay, so whether you were with them or not, if it was a crush, that means you were not with them, then they have a part of you that you do not have, and you feel like it's outside of you. And in order to solve this very painful longing that we have, we need to retrieve that part back into us. And our misdirected love towards them is actually a sign that something is missing from ourselves that we feel like they will fulfill. Redirecting that love back into ourselves is knitting a new puzzle piece that will fit and make us feel complete and whole. It's really easy to say pour that love back into yourself, but it's much harder to do. Here are 2 ways that have helped me in my journey of rediscovering my own love and reconnecting to it. So without this person, we feel quite lonely, right? And loneliness is really painful. But biologically, we know that loneliness is a signal that we have to reconnect. It's not something that can be solved with solitude, although solitude is, you know, healthy. but we are inherently village-based organisms and we need to connect with other people. Usually going back to our ex or our crush dynamic is very unhealthy. It'll either make an awkward moment or it'll begin some sort of emotional abuse or just psychological pain that we cannot solve. First and foremost, what we absolutely need to do is to grieve. And grieving is a reconnection with ourself. So that means completely and fully letting go of everything that you feel. Whether you're sad, you're angry, anything, allowing that grief to come out. That's one part of it. The other part of it is also reading about the grief stages and preparing yourself. Although, let me warn you, it does get messy. And if you have not felt the grief of disconnecting from somebody, then just, get ready for a rainstorm. But you'll be okay, I promise. Try not to judge yourself because this is definitely a normal thing that everyone has to go through. We all have pain, we all have people that pass away in our life and people that we can crush very hard on who don't want us back. But it's really a trick of the brain and the ego, so you have to remember that. And grief is allowing us ourselves to detoxify from that ego and return to ourself. And remember to feel it now and feel it as it comes out, because the more we put off our grief and our negative emotions, the more they will turn weird and distort themselves and come out with unhealthy coping mechanisms that will only destroy us in the long term. The other reconnection that is very important is to the people that already love us, whether it is our family, our extended family, or our friends who we haven't talked to in a while. Just people that love you and you can rely on. And talk to them about what you've been going through if they're open to that. Let them know that you're going to be emotionally dumping, and if they're good friends, if they're good family, they will be open to that. They will allow space for you to do that. It's very important to have a person or two that you can emotionally dump on a little bit, because it will really allow you to grieve more and understand what's going on and why it's not the end of the world. Others that don't necessarily want to hear our emotional dump, you can just make an excuse to talk to them longer or call them for random reasons. Even that makes us feel better, reconnecting to those who will guaranteed be in our lives and will reciprocate the love that we have. Once you do both of these things, please don't stop. Grief is an endless process, and sometimes things can come up, they can bubble up without our expecting them to. So even when that emotion comes out, just let it go. I mean, sure, you might have to wait until the end of the day if you're at work to fully feel what's going on and the crying or the anger that you have to punch out, but just let it out as soon as possible and keep calling your good friends, keep calling your family and going on fun activities with them and all of that. These are just healthy things to do as people, The other major part of making ourselves whole again is reconnecting to that part that they have, or that we perceive that they have, which is actually ours. So I have 5 ways to do that. The first way is find a hobby that you're really, really passionate about. And everyone has this. Even the silliest thing like World of Warcraft or, crocheting bananas. Something that really sparks a fire within you and allows you to find that electric love in minute places that you wouldn't even expect it. You can collect those pieces of electric love and then build on that, and then it shapes your character. If you fuel your love into something that also fuels you back, and then you grow from it. Maybe this is something that you started neglecting when you were so focused on your love for them. Finding our hobbies and passions actually does help with relationships because it allows us to fill in the time while we're waiting or dating other people, and for the times when our future partner may be busy or needs some space. The second thing is look after your health and move your body in ways that it really craves. And I promise you, your body craves moving so much more than you might even think. Yoga, the gym, dancing, hiking, basketball, swimming. There's so many ways to move our body, and Emotions are actually stored within our body in different places. This is called somatic psychology actually, and I'm curious to learn more about it, but I do know that emotions live in our body and moving really gets them out. So please try to keep up an exercise regimen or have random dance parties whenever you feel like letting something go. It'll definitely help you. The third one is read about relationships or watch videos or listen to podcasts, but reading is honestly the best thing because it really takes you deep. There's always something we can work on when it comes to relationships with people, with our friends and family and partners. Usually there's one thing that really ticks other people off, and the only way to really discover that and improve ourselves for people in the future is to study that about ourselves. So here's a few book recommendations that I have, and I'm gonna look down here to read them. The first one is Attached, The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love by Amir Levine. This one is a really good one to study attachment styles, and attachment theory really influences so much of how we relate to other people. The second one that really helped me was Communion by Bell Hooks. Coming Apart by Daphne Rose Kingma, which is all about the end of marriages and relationships, so breakups, and why they happen, because there's definitely a reason that they happen, and this book really goes into that. I Hear You by Michael S. Sorensen. And this one YouTube channel called Personal Development School, it's run mainly by Thais Gibson, and I'll put the logo here. And as you read, just remember to take a break from them because yes, it can be triggering, but it definitely progresses us farther and farther into understanding ourselves. So it's important work. Don't just completely avoid it, please. The fourth one is to read about your shadow. And some people can call this the subconscious mind or the ego, things that we aren't aware of. This influences our relationships as well, and even our life in general. And these aspects of us create more pain than is really necessary for us to experience. So it really behooves us to study this and improve our future based on what we learn. So the two book suggestions I have for that are A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle and The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, which goes into our subconscious mind deeply. And the last thing I have to say is make sure that you truly feel the emptiness within you of another person, because yes, it's true, when we are not paired up, there's something about us that like constantly seeks another person or just, feels empty without another person. We definitely can learn to bury that feeling, but it's also important to know that it's there and accept it about ourselves and to surrender to whatever life brings us. Like, if we're not meant to be with somebody, okay, life will let us know. If we are meant to be with somebody, okay, life will take us towards them and stay with them. So it's really the act of surrendering and feeling our emptiness that encompasses this feeling of love that we have, of love that we can't give someone else. And it helps us channel that love back into ourselves and love ourselves as well. I know I said the word love so many times. I hope that makes sense. And obviously, I don't have to tell anyone, but like, you can write love poetry, or you can read love stories, or, watch love movies. All this helps us kind of relate it to our own feelings of love, but I kind of feel like that comes naturally. It doesn't really have to be said. But on the other hand, I do find that when we compare our story to stories in books or movies, it's not really an accurate picture, because that's not necessarily our story. And what really helps us for current and future relationships is learning who we really are by, accepting our emptiness through meditation, reading about relationships, really diving into the subconscious of our mind and getting to that point where we know, okay, this is what I can do, this is how I usually act, I accept these parts about me are flaws, I can accept certain flaws in another person. And I do recommend that you check out that other video that I made, as well as the one on attachment styles, which I can link here. This topic is pretty important to me because love is everything. Like, love is just all we have. It's like why we do what we do, and what is life without love, you know? Thank you. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content and check out my other stuff, and follow me on Instagram at Goddess Gaia. Thank you. See you next time.